a one-sided two-stage ditch, so it's not the traditional two-stage ditch approach. We can see, we do have a nice wooded riparian area on our, this would be the south side of the ditch. So that kind of dictated some of the design of this and turned it into a one-sided ditch rather than two-sided. There has been a native plant mix planted here on this site rather than maybe a more traditional tall fescue or some other cool season type of non-native vegetation. That was done for a number of reasons. Some of our original goals going into this, as a soil and water district, in terms of wildlife habitat, we wanted to have a positive impact, as well as being able to hold a stable floodplain bench, and really being under the assumption that native plants are going to do that better, more so than a non-native mix. That we see a lot of times on practices within a rural setting. The contractor does too good of a job grading it out. It's so smooth and slick. It sheds water right off or sheets it right off. Sometimes with these two-stage ditch practices, it's almost better to leave a rough edge. And our contractor here did a really good job of leaving kind of that rough grade. There's a couple reasons why we want that. From a erosion control standpoint, increasing the roughness within that channel will help slow the water down a little bit, help that sediment deposit out onto those benches, and also take away some of the erosive power of that high water flow. So that's where it's kind of going to help hold your ditch banks and things like that, rather than losing or having massive sloughing in some of these sections. But from some of the I think the biggest obstacles from a landowner standpoint up to now, one has been the cost or the logistics behind what do you do with all the spoils. We can see behind me that we have created quite a bit of excavation. You've created quite a bit of storage, and that material's got to go somewhere. Here we were able to distribute that spoils or excavated soils here in the field and grade it out, and then it goes back to a cultivated land use. This is one of those things that does increase the cost, and sometimes that can be a barrier to getting that practice in. So one example comes to mind, talking to a landowner, and this was on a ditch in the southern part of the county that was really deep, 2 times as deep as what we're looking at here. So we're talking about depth from top of bank down to the bottom of the ditch of maybe 15 feet. And when you're dealing with those depths, that height, and creating a bench, that's a lot of soil to be moving and placing. This is also a landowner that's been committed to soil health practices and implementing resource management systems on his ground over the past 15 or 20 years. And that's something that he really just didn't want to have that impact on the adjacent ground that he spent 15 or 20 years building up, which is understandable. But again, with this being a new practice, there's always new things that we learn every time that we try to apply that. Spoils is definitely one of those things that can crop up and become an obstacle in a project.
Not a whole lot of difficulties. The main things that we looked at is through this section here, you can see we kind of went to a one-sided ditch because this used to be a Z pattern of the natural flow of the water. So we tried to straighten that out. So the bench on one side is actually 20 foot wide, and we get close to the road here, so trying to keep everything in more of a straight pattern was part of the design issue that we did have. What we found is all of our two-stage ditches here in Howard County, this is our 5th one we've installed, and all of them have been installed through either mitigation dollars, grant dollars. This one in particular was installed using 319 money through the Nature Conservancy. So trying to find a location of a two-stage ditch that will come into budget that we have as far as the grants are allowing us. The criteria is a half-mile stretch, no more than 5,000 acres above the two-stage area. And then the depth of the ditch plays a large part of it, because you have the common excavation, the spoil to move out, depending upon your bench size and your slope steepness, calculates in how much dirt you have to move. So looking for an area that you start out with a budgetary number, and you have to tailor your sites based upon that dollar amount. We have one ditch in Howard County that is a one-sided two-stage ditch, and we found that the two-sided ditches seem to be performing better.